All right, welcome back to Closet Confessions. So, some more examples of validation and kind of do's and don'ts. So, in Haim Ginott's book, I'm actually going to read a little part of it to you to help you realize how amazing it is, but also to give you an example. So, Haim Ginott's Between Parent and Child, he gave some samples. And remember in the last video, I mentioned just kind of this list of like, don't use this kind of language when you're trying to work through a problem with somebody because it is totally unproductive. As I give these examples, I want you to look for and listen for phrases that are defensive, shaming, using absolutes. I didn't explain that one. So absolute language are statements like you never, you always. Very rarely ever do those words actually apply. It's very rare that someone always does something or never does something. So even though people, and especially kids, will come at us with that language like you never, you always, that can be very triggering for us because it's not truth. It can be tempting for us to respond in a very strong way, but it's not going to be helpful. And so I really want you to listen for the kind of language that is not helpful that we use on our kids or our coworkers or our peers or whatever. So watch out for judgment kind of statements, shaming, manipulation, defensiveness, absolutes, things like that. What we want to look for, I'm trying to word this in a way that makes sense for me. I was really trying to understand what is it exactly? What is validation exactly? It's basically observation language. Like it's observation. It's not judgment. It's the opposite of judgment. It's observing. And it's kind of saying back what you see to help them see that you are really trying to understand them. It's not about you. So validation has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the other person. It's really trying to be there for the other person and and this can be very hard, setting yourself aside for a moment so you can try to understand them. One thing, and this is just a side note before I get into samples. One thing that I have found helpful for me is so that I can show up for others, is especially my children, is having safe people in my life that know how to validate me. So know how to be my person when I'm struggling to say, I'm really upset right now. Listen to what my kid just did to me, whatever. And they basically say, wow, that's really hard. I can see why you're so upset. And they don't try to give me solutions. They don't try to tell me what to do, what I should or need or ought to do with that kid or that person or that coworker or whatever. They just are validating. So having a few people in your life that know how to do this, they can be your safe outlets, okay? For some of us that are religious, God is that person for us, and he's definitely one of mine. He's my main go-to. But I also have others that I do rely on for that too, and so I'm very grateful for those people in my life. That will help you be able to do this for others, to show up for others in that way, if you have your own people that you can do that with, because your kids are not that person. Generally speaking, they're not going to be the ones that are going to do that for you. Although, as you model this, they will learn this skill, and you will be amazed at how compassionate they can be with you when you're the one with the flip lid and they're in their higher thinking brain. So anyways, that's what actually one of the things I love in this, this book. It goes into all the different types of relationships, and it will give you examples of how actually children can do this with their parents, and grandkids can do it with their grandparents, and so on. And like employees can do it with employers. It's really hard to be the leader, so to speak. It's so nice when others that you're like can have that compassion for you. And anyways, so yeah. Okay, here's some samples. So parents are continually confronted with children's complaints, which usually make them angry. In order to not escalate the anger and get into an argument by counter-complaining or being defensive, they need to learn to respond to complaints by acknowledging the child's complaint, which is validation. For example, so here's sample number 1. Selma, you never buy me anything. The mother, there's something you would like me to buy you. Like, that's observing, right? She's not saying, this is the what not to do. How can you say that after all the beautiful clothes I bought you only last week? You never appreciate anything I do for you. That's your trouble. So can you hear the accusation, the judgment, the defensiveness, the never. There's an absolute statement. You never appreciate anything I do for you. That is counterproductive. We've done it. We've all done it. So give yourself some grace. That's why we're here. We're trying to learn to be better. But just learning this is a serious new skill set. Instead of saying, like thinking about yourself, because that response, that's defensiveness is self-focused. The outward focus is you're just trying to connect with this person. They're obviously struggling. You never buy me anything. What you're really trying to figure out is what is her real need or want or desire, her feeling here. There's something you would like me to buy you. This does not mean you're going to buy her what she wants, by the way. Remember, validation is not that you agree with them. It's not that they're going to necessarily get what they want from you. And so just kind of keep that in mind. And it doesn't mean you have to compromise your values, but you are acknowledging their feelings because their feelings are valid. Everybody's allowed to feel however they want. Just remember that. Some actions need to be limited, but all feelings are valid. Okay. So she is wanting whatever this thing is. And so she's using very strong language to try to get what she wants, right? So here's another example. You never take me anywhere. This is Julian. The father says, well, he's looking for what is it that they're really saying? Where would you like to go? So they're obviously saying, I want to go somewhere. But they're using words that are hard to get past because they're these judgments on you. So it's pretty normal to let your pride flare up. But this father looked and said, okay, what are they really expressing here? They want to go somewhere. There's somewhere they would like to go. So when he says, where would you like to go? That opens it up to them saying, oh, I would really like to go to the park today, or whatever the thing is, right? So here's the example of what not to say back. How can I when you always end up making a scene? So there's a judgment. The father comes back at, whenever I take you anywhere, you throw a fit, right? So that's why I don't want to take you anywhere. That's not helpful. That's not going to get through the situation, and it's not going to connect you. Okay. Number 3, Zachary, you're always late. Mother, you didn't like waiting for me. That's expressing what you're seeing, right? You didn't like waiting for me. And that's the one I actually used earlier, right? So then the example of what not to say is, and you're never late. You don't want to remember every time I waited for you. So we've already touched on that one. Number 4, Jessica, you don't care what happens to me. Father, you wish I had been there when you fell. When you needed me. So I'll say that again. You don't care what happens to me. You wish I had been there when you fell, when you needed me. So you're recognizing that she's got scared by what she just fell, and she's judging you, but really what she's saying is I wish you had been there, Daddy. I wish you had caught me when I fell. So he identified that instead of attacking her. Instead of saying, how can you say that after all I have sacrificed to make you happy? So in that one phrase, you hear shaming, manipulation, defensiveness. And so we're trying to avoid that. Okay, so when we're trying to validate others, actually, I'm going to do this in a separate segment.